Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thanks for tuning into another Supatease video, and Guardian Druid is back with more damage, survivability, and crowd control than ever. My chat yesterday kind of challenged me as a meme to play the Guardian Druid specialization, and it ended up actually feeling really strong, and oddly enough, actually a lot of fun. It's going to play a lot similarly to almost a subtlety rogue with the amount of crowd control that you have. And with this given build that I will have linked in the description down below, you're focusing your damage on Maul and Moonfire. It has a lot more single target pressure than it previously had, and you have a tremendous amount of healing and support with regrowth. So the main focus of this build is to keep Thrash stacked at very high on many targets so that you're getting your maximum damage towards that target and they're doing reduced damage to yourself. Your next main goal is to be as disruptive as possible, to use Skull Bash on cast, Typhoon on cast, Bash on cast, root enemy melee attackers, and use the Overrun stun onto healers to chain into Cyclone. It's almost like a guaranteed bash clone off DR, which almost no other Druid specialization has. So if you're kind of frustrated playing Feral Druid at the moment, you can play Guardian and pretty much just be an unkillable Feral Druid with a lot better utility and things like this. So we go for a clone under the Shaman so the fear doesn't break. We're stacking up our Thrash, keeping our Moonfires under the target. We Overrun stun, which also knocks enemies away. So we tried to knock them away from the Shaman who was looking for that Spirit Link totem in that position. And it can be really clutch in moments like that. We've also got the demoralizing Roar to provide damage reduction to enemy attackers whenever our healer is really struggling or falling behind. And we have Innervate to make sure that when games are going a little bit longer, as they are likely to go a bit longer with the tank specialization, that we're going to win on mana. So we've got pretty much all 9 yards covered here. We're Overrun stunning here into the Warlock, knocking the Shaman away. Normally I would tell my team to not push in for crowd control and just let me use stun into clone because they have to compromise their positioning a lot to be able to do that, which I can do basically for free. We're just continuing to maintain our uptime. Demonic Tyrant's coming out, so we're going to want to demoralizing roar that. It will reduce the damage of the Tyrant as well as the Warlock because he's nearby. Just an AoE damage reduction, chasing down the Warlock, but we also want to heal. So here we tossed out Innervate. We're falling behind on mana. The Boomkin's popping Incarn, so we got to go into like full support mode, try and just off heal, try and clone DPS. You really do want to abuse clone. It's not like Guardian Druid was before where you just sat in bear form pressing 3 AoE buttons the whole time. Clone is really good and really important. Otherwise, like right here, we would be dead. We're skull bashing the Wrath. We're trying to slow down their damage. We've got Bash. You also want to use Barkskin as a damage cooldown. It's going to activate Brambles and just start AoEing a ton of pressure. So I used it here with a Bash onto the Shaman. We were able to drop him. We opened a Hearthstone game in between the queues. I was trying to play Hearthstone in the queue times there, but we'll jump immediately into the next round. I don't know why this lock pressed his wall. Maybe he was lagging out or something here, having a tough time, but this lobby was an absolute clean sweep for us, really. We were just really dominating everything. We get a Bash on the Shaman, go for a clone. His teammates actually helped him. Something that I noticed from playing a character that started at 0 rating with this specialization is at lower ratings, people usually don't help their healer with crowd control. So this is actually a pretty high level play for what MMR this lobby was at, but we're going to be able to overrun into a Bash on the Trinket and get a ton of pressure on his Warlock. You can see me almost, second on damage at that point in the opener. We get a clone on the Shaman, and he walled randomly at the start of the game, so he's probably going to fall over and get bursted down. And you can actually win games still quickly, even with the Guardian Druid. So it's very entertaining, actually. I don't know. I feel kind of dirty. I feel disgusting a little bit inside, but it's actually kind of entertaining with the off healing and the crowd control and the utility, and honestly a more complex rotation than a lot of other specs. I've done the 2400 challenge on almost every single spec, and there are other DPS specs that are easier to play than this, specifically with how you do your damage rotation and manage your resources. So I actually had a pretty fun time playing this. We're jumping in. Now we got the Warlock that walled randomly, wasn't doing a lot, hard casting a Demon Bolt. So can we win with the Warlock? Hard casting a Demon Bolt randomly using his wall. We're going to start on the Death Knight, root his pet up here because he empowered it with that monstrosity, and we're going to line aside the Boomkin's cooldowns. Generally, you want to kind of throw yourself at your opponents because you're going to be reasonably unkillable. I just use a shield wall and a frenzied regen in the opener. Now we're looking for spam clones, clone the Boomkin on its cooldowns. Try and slow down the opener and make it easier for your team. Now we swap the Cyclone over to the Death Knight, toss out some off heals on the Shaman, and this is what I'm talking about. You don't just sit in bear form in AoE. You've got to use like the full kit of the Druid class. Otherwise, my Shaman probably just gets run over right there if I'm just kind of AoEing and doing nothing in the opener. So you got to focus on peeling when you need to. Pain Suppression on the Death Knight. We're going to bash him up, swap over to the Boomkin, Axe Toss stun onto the Boomkin. We got clone DRs for the Boomkin, so we could toss out a clone here if we want to, but the pressure's not too high, so we're just doing damage. We're going to overrun stun into clone. This is the standard crowd control chain that you're going to start onto the healer. And it's a really good way to just get pressure, because remember, this Warlock not having a great lobby so far. So if we can win with him as a tank, like that's going to be really impressive, because normally it kind of feels like you need to get carried. But if you can carry as the tank spec, then the sky is the limit for this. I'm almost setting it now as a challenge if it's possible, because most tank specs can't actually get high rating. So I might do it on my stream, which is linked in the description down below, and see how high rating we can really push this. If it's possible to actually get 2400 with a tank spec this season. Now we can see the healer out in the open, so we can go for an overrun stun. This into a Cyclone, line of sight the Boomkin, get a full clone, toss out some heals, get back onto the Boomkin. Need to get our Thrash stacks up. Honestly, maintaining your Thrash is while looking for clones and while healing is actually pretty difficult to do. And it would be your main priority to try and make sure your Thrashes stay high, because that's going to buff up your single target damage a lot. Your Mauls can hit anywhere from, like right now you can see I'm hitting 50k. I've seen upwards of 120k Mauls, depending on your Thrash stacks and your trinket proc situation. So definitely want to be maintaining that damage at a high margin and spamming your rage as much as you can, because that Maul with the super fun animation, they like copy the Diablo 4 Druid Pulverize animation, and it actually feels really good. Here we get life swap with a fear over there onto the priest and the trinket, and we're still really in a great position. Like, look at our defensives. Like, we were really far ahead. We're knocking the Death Knight away there on his cooldowns. You get a fear on the priest. I clone his trinket, move over towards the Boomkin, see him trying to go after my shaman a bit. I want to make sure I'm in range to kick him, but I also see the Death Knight overextending, so I got kind of a tough choice here. I shadow meld the clone and go for a clone on the Boomkin. The Death Knight gets feared out of line of sight, and we can charge root him out of line of sight of the priest and hold him around the corner just a little bit longer, and this priest is really struggling. Maul's coming through, barrier comes down. We're killing him through barrier. We're killing him through Icebound Fortitude. I really don't understand. He's penancing, so I off-kick the penance. He's still dying through every cooldown, and I'm a tank, and remember, this is the Warlock that randomly walled nothing. And like, if we can pull this off, like, I'm squeaking pretty close on damage to an Unholy Death Knight as well here. I'm only 1.2 million behind, which isn't like dramatically behind considering the insane level of utility that I offer on top of that. Like, I could basically deep freeze Sheep a Healer by myself, like Mage is used to with the Overrun stun, and then I can also just off heal the team almost indefinitely. And if I really need to heal them big, I've got Heart of the Wild. I have so much buffering and tools to be able to just continue to extend the game on top of like a pretty decent damage profile. And this is what I was talking about with the patch changes leading up into the expansion, was that tank specs could actually be really good right now, because they just buffed almost every single tank's damage overall. Here we're fighting the Warlock and the Death Knight. This is one of the most OP comps in the game. We got Boomkin Guardian. Like, it's not a great setup. So we're going to root up the Death Knight, prevent him from getting his target, bash line of sight, go for a clone, get a clone onto the healer. Now we can use our overrun stun onto a DPS instead, because we used the bash on the healer. Stun the lock behind the pillar, start getting our Thrashes up. I pop my cooldowns really early because I want to try and get 2 of them in the game, but I wasn't sure 100% if I really wanted to do that, because it's actually really tough to live for 3 minutes to get Berserk twice. So it might be better to save Berserk. I do think you want to use Barkskin pretty much on cooldown, as well as Rage of Sleeper, because these are just going to give you, overall higher damage and just force cooldowns. We can see a Demonic Tyrant coming up, but we're going for an Overrun stun into clone onto the healer, Pain Suppression onto the lock, Anti-Magic Zone to the Death Knight. They're so terrified of a Guardian Druid, dude. We are definitely a threat now. But our Boomkin's getting low. Look at that. Heart of the Wild, instant regrowth, and that just tops him off basically with one cast, and it's instant every 30 seconds, and he's getting low, so we got to keep healing. This is what I mean. You got to be aware of your surroundings. You're not just going to be AoE. Got to be using the entire kit of the Druid. We get that Boomkin back up to full health. Lockport's back behind the pillar. Overrun stun into the priest. SDR is ending. Looking for a clone. Get the clone. Also, Heart of the Wild makes your casts faster. So you saw it by Cyclone is probably faster than when I'm as Boomkin when Heart of the Wild is up, because it makes all your balanced Druid spells faster. So definitely really funny when that can happen. People will just not be able to kick you. We're going to use our Wild Charge to get over here to the lock with our Stampeding Roar. Try and get our Thrash stacks up. You do have a slow that is applied through attacking. It's not exactly the most effective slow, but you do want to make sure you're trying to maintain that as you can. I think it's with Mangle, but it's definitely one of your physical abilities. Here we're going to innervate the healer. Mana's starting to fall a bit behind, and we're starting to die, so we're going to heal up during this time. They got Tyrant and Wall, so you can see all I'm doing is healing through Ultimate Penance and Tyrant. If I didn't, the Boomkin's probably dead right now. Clone up the Death Knight, get back onto the Warlock. Overrun stun into the priest, now into a clone because we've recovered, and we just want to be chasing down this Warlock as fast as possible. So we're moving back over. He gets knocked out into the open. We're going to root up the Death Knight here for a moment. I want to go for a clone. If I get kicked, then my Boomkin and Shaman can free cast. So like getting kicked is perfect as Guardian Druid in this type of comp. Knock him away on his A-bomb limb. Try and go for another clone. We get blinded, and now this is kind of stressful. But again, if you're taking damage, just wall frenzy regen, you're probably going to be fine in most situations. We got Rage of Sleeper coming off cooldown here. We're going to go look to connect and pop that as soon as possible. portal, bash the lock, overrun, stun the priest, look for a clone. Nobody's stopping me. I think I stopped myself for some reason, but we get the clone anyways. And with that full clone, look, we're just dropping. I'm just spamming Maul at this point. Maul's my hardest hitting attack as far as single target burst. So just spam out Maul, able to drop him. We're at 4 wins now. We're moving into the 5th round of this 6-round lobby. We got Death Knight Guardian, which is like one of the best comps in the round now for this specific one. So we can just kind of run down a target, grip it in, constantly kick it, annoy it, disrupt it, and really kind of just take it out of the game. I think the only downside might be that we don't have a Mortal Wounds effect. And I thought that was going to be a problem. Honestly, I thought lobbies like this, where it's multiple casters, would be almost impossible, but it actually wasn't. I got a few lobbies like this where I got triple casters. I think the one before this had like an Invoker or something, and I made it out even with 3. Other lobbies, 4, 2, 5. Some games I'm out damaging everybody. There's quite a lot of variance in terms of the possibilities in terms of success for this. So we're just going to stealth in across the map safely to avoid CC. We're going to go for a stun on the Warlock here behind the pillar. Actually, I root him to stun the healer to go for a clone, so I can't be interrupted or stunned by the pet. So this way we're out of line of sight safely. We can get back onto the Warlock here into the corner. We're going to interrupt that Shadow Fury. We don't want to get stunned while the Priest is cloned. That forces Dark Pact, overrun, stun the Warlock. Now the Boomkin's got offensive cooldowns up, so we're in a bit of trouble here. We're just trying to monitor the Warlock and really take him out of the game as much as possible. He forces Wall. He's going to go for Shadow Fury. We've got an instant regrowth time. Whenever your regrowth lights up like that, it means you've got an instant one while you're just playing the game in Bear. So we toss that out onto the Death Knight as he appears to be the target. Kick out a Wrath to stop the clones. Here comes the Tyrant. So we're going to toss out heals. And as soon as I activate offensive cooldowns, I go into healer mode, which is just spam regrowth on whoever that they're attacking. Keep Thrash up as you can. Continue going after the Warlock. Boomkin's out in the middle looking for a Cyclone, but I'm kind of too far away. He Thunderstorms the clone. We can kick the fear here. We overrun stun it instead, it seems, as the Priest is on DR, and we go for a clone onto the Priest. Get a full clone. Warlock's kiting away. Need to get the snares up. I get cloned. I decide to trinket. We got pressure. We force Pain Suppression here. I get cloned on DR. Now I can swap the clones to the Boomkin if I want to here in this position. I try and monitor the clone DRs, and basically if something is off of clone DR, you do generally want to put it into it unless there's no pressure going out and they're not looking for any CC. Then it's probably better to maximize for damage. We get another Pain Suppression. I bash the Boomkin on his jump in, overrun stun the Priest, go for a Cyclone. This is what I meant by you feel like a subtlety rogue. Like I literally just CC'd the whole team right there in 2 GCDs. Now we're spamming out Mangles and Mauls, keeping up the pressure over onto the Warlock and just continuing to train him down. Since we've worked through so many defensive cooldowns, we're probably pretty close to a kill. We're out damaging the Warlock in this position. We get reconnect with Wild Charge, knock him behind the pillar out of line of sight of the Priest, and we get a stun on him out of line of sight of the Priest, and we just start going to town. He penances, but even that's not really enough. We stun the Shadow Fury. We don't want to get CC'd here. Strangulate into blind over onto the Priest. Now I'd like to chain that into an overrun stun, so I'm going to charge over. He uses life swaps. So we're going to swap damage to the Priest here, try and catch him off guard. He does repairs. I get stunned. He's not going to go down. We get cloned up. Now our Death Knight's in trouble. Anti-magic zone. So I'm looking at spamming clone on the Boomkin in this position because our Shaman's getting CC'd and the Death Knight's getting low, and I'd rather focus on defense. Get out of regrowth. Boomkin's clone. Time to get my stacks going again. We got Barkston coming off cooldown. We got Rage of Sleeper. This is going to be a big moment to do a lot of damage. So we want to get back on the Warlock. We get a static field on him. We grip him back in. We get a Link totem off, but this is Incarn. So even though I've got offensive cooldowns up, as soon as I see that Incarn, I immediately started spamming regrowth. So anytime I see them pop offensive cooldowns, I want to toss out at least a heal, go for a bash on the Boomkin, go for a Cyclone, control the damage, because you're not going to be able to outpace the burst damage of DPS as this, but you can definitely annoy them and stall it out and make them wish they didn't sit in a 2-hour queue to get you as a Guardian Druid. So we clone up the Boomkin 3 times. We're still tossing off heals. I really couldn't believe that the Death Knight was even alive at this point. I get a clone on the Priest. He's got Icebound Fortitude, and I'm kind of just going for it. We go for an overrun stun on the Boomkin, a half clone on the Priest, and I'm basically praying that my dots and my bleeds on the target will take down it with the Death Knight, and the Priest just gets overwhelmed. We're at 62% dampening. We knock the Warlock, strangulate the healer, and I get cloned. We come in for the Maul, and we smash them. Take round 5 out of 6, and I'm thinking, wow, like, are we really about to get a 6-0 lobby as a Guardian Druid after being challenged to do this? Like, I thought it was kind of a meme spec. Like, off and on, I've tried every spec throughout the game, and the tanks have always felt kind of just like you can't really do anything. You're at the mercy of your team carrying you, and this was actually the first time where that didn't feel like it was to be the case. So I was very happy with his performance, and it was just kind of a different play style than what I was used to with the Balanced Druid. You just have so many extra stuns. It's a lot more of a mix of a subtlety rogue than anything else, and you're unkillable just like a subtlety rogue. So there's that. Now we're sneaking in stealth. We're going to get a root on the Death Knight on his way in, bash up onto the Shaman probably, or an overrun stun, charging at the Boomkin, just kind of throwing myself. And I think at this point they were trying to figure out how to beat me, so they started attacking me, and I'm just laughing like, okay, you're really going to try and attack me? Shield wall, frenzied regen, I don't care, man. Throw everything you got at me. Hit me as hard as you can right now, like one of those kind of like TIE fighting like memes where you're just like, yeah, hit me as hard as you can, give me your best shot. And like, it's just really funny to watch somebody try and kill me. So I'm just spamming Maul on this Boomkin, absolutely running him down into the dirt at the moment, pumping up more damage to my Warlock in this position, keeping up the Thrashes and the Moonfires as I can. We're going to go for an Overrun or a Wild Charge into a Bash, try and go for a clone. We get Thunderstorm. So some healers do have stuff to combat your stun clone. You got to be careful. So Shaman can Thunderstorm. So if you charge Bash, you need to move out of range of the Thunderstorm before casting the clone. Priest can also fade while you're charging through the air. So you got to be careful with whether or not they've faded or not, because they can pre-fade the stun while you're charging. So there's some healer outplays you need to be aware of. We're going to kick Cyclone. We don't want to get put into crowd control at this point. We're keeping up pressure onto the balanced Druid. I got a Shadow Meld for this Cyclone. Again, just focusing on disruption. I tried to go for a clone on the clone, but I was too slow. We're going to trinket out of it. He clones me again. It's not a big deal. He's got Heart of the Wild. It's unlikely that he would die here anyways. Overrun stun, clone onto Shaman. He knocks me. See, I didn't move far enough away. So you got to make sure that you're moving away so you're not getting Thunderstormed on the Overrun stun. But we're going to charge him with Wild Charge, go for a Mass Entangle, go for another clone, get a clone over here onto the Shaman. Boomkin's behind the pillar, but he runs back into our line of sight. We're going to pop Barkskin, pop Rage of the Sleeper, get our Moonfire, get our Thrash back up onto the target. Those are kind of your main prep tools, and just continue spamming Maul and trying to keep the pressure. He runs out of Earth, and the Shaman is so mad at the Boomkin right now. We're just spamming out Maul, doing as much damage as humanly possible here, as barely possible. I don't know. I'm not a human. We're Wild Charging over to the Druid as he tries to escape. We've got stun DRs off on the Shaman in 2 seconds, and we got clone DRs off. So we really want to go for an Overrun stun, and we want to go for a clone as soon as possible. We stun his Aura Mastery, and we try and move out of range of the Thunderstorm, but now he's got like a second where he could have sheared me if he was facing me right there. So it's a really tough squeeze there to try and get that CC onto the Shaman. We fear him out of the clone. Boomkin's getting low. Skin's over. We've got our Barkskin to amp up our damage. He drops down the link. We're going to kill that before the Death Knight can get inside of it. We're going to pop our Barkskin. That's going to proc the Brambles and start AoEing us, turning us into this just little cleave bomb onto the Boomkin. But with the Shaman free casting in the corner, I should have probably tried to kick one of these heals. I was a bit more worried about stopping clones. But now the Boomkin is, un-CC'd. We go for a stun into a clone, a Thunderstorm, but I don't know why. I was immune to knock because he Typhooned me. So that was just a complete accident that he didn't get that, because I'm pretty sure the Boomkin Typhooned me like 1 second before. Now they've got Incarn up, so I popped my Heart of the Wild, and we're just in bear form. He can't even do damage. He's just getting trained down. He's taking so much damage running around the corner just trying to survive. But now he's line of sighting his healer, so he's running around the corner. We're going on the Death Knight who's behind the pillar as well. Just cleave pressure. We use our charge over here. We've got an Overrun stun. We've got clone DRs. We're just doing damage. He's kind of just dying even though he's free casting heals in the bag. 61% dampening. Really a struggle for the Shaman to keep up right now. Priest looks like he's chasing down the Shaman. We get an Axe Toss. Priest can't get there. He gets Solar Beam. It doesn't even matter. He just dies. We just run him down with damage, and we're able to take the 6, get a fat 72 rating, which honestly I think Guardian Druid right now rank 1 is like 17 or 1800. So this is literally rank 1 range for the spec, and we just started. So definitely a fun thing if you're looking for something different or you want a little bit unique of a challenge. It's going to be a different experience. So I just wanted to show you the power and the possibilities of the bear. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.